going to do another video on my series of ethical naturalism, and pretty much what I want to talk about is what is discussed in this book. This is E.M. Adams' Ethical Naturalism and the Modern Worldview, and he gives three kinds of naturalism here. One is classical naturalism. I already talked about that. Emotive naturalism and logical naturalism. And you're going to hear me talk about the emotive version of naturalism. And like I said in many other videos on this topic of naturalism, I've talked about how a naturalist doesn't have to be either a realist or relativist. They just have to have some kind of account as to how ethical sentences and statements are natural within the scientific world and can be investigated as such. And how they pretty much they have to normally, like within most of them, they have some kind of meaning. But in this case, with the emotive naturalism, which I would like to talk about now, it's not so much the case, here. Emotive naturalism is not something I had really heard of. I've heard of emotivism. Emotivism is what you find in A.J. Ayer's Language, Truth, and Logic, or Stevenson. Those are the two main ones that I can think of. Ayer and Stevenson. So I kind of want to go through what this book does. First of all, emotivism is pretty much a theory within metaethics that goes against the idea that ethical sentences are empirical, verifiable, meaningful, and are bivalent. They have true truth value, pretty much. It's like talking about these things of ought, good, right, wrong. These terms that we see within ethics, and pretty much what this is really is trying to say that these ethical sentences do not fit the criteria. They don't fit the criteria of being meaningful, verifiable, empirical, controlled by observation. And Adams says two assumptions are made by both classical naturalists and Moreian non-naturalists. Now I have a video on More way back in this series. One, ethical sentences are meaningful, and two, every meaningful sentence is such by virtue of the designation of the terms. Ethical sentence ethical sentence is meaningful by the terms used, like good or ought, duty, or these kind of things that we see in this like typical normative ethics. And we're going to think about the logical positivists. If you don't know who the logical positivists are, they start from the Vienna Circle. I have a video on the Vienna Circle. The Vienna Circle, they wrote this little smaller piece of work by most of them, which says that we're going to try to eliminate metaphysics and theology, and we're going to learn things by empirical observation and logical analysis. That's pretty much what we're going to do. They had Ernst Mach as part of it. It also had to do with the Ernst Mach's Society, and Wittgenstein also had something to do with the Vienna Circle, but he wasn't like a main member. Wittgenstein was like their god or something. Oops. So we had Moritz Schlick, Rudolf Carnap, Weissman, lots of other people. Karl Hempel, I think, was even in that. Anyway, A.J. Ayer was not within the Vienna Circle, but he was a later logical positivist. He wrote a lot of stuff on the verification and verifiability theory. He also wrote the paper Phenomenalism, which is a great paper, which I would like to do a video about sooner or later. But its main book is Language, Truth, and Logic. It's actually a very neat book, and you'll find his emotivist ethics in there. And pretty much, this is what Adam says is the idea of emotive naturalism. Ethicals is pretty much to say that no true description, there are no true descriptive uses of ethical terms. Also, ethical sentences are not controlled by observation. The emotivist trend is going to say that like the sense or the terms like right, wrong, ought are emotive. That's the common thing of emotivism. And Adams in this book says that emotivism is naturalist. There's something naturalist about it. Even though the emotivists like Ayer and Stevenson do not say that ethical sentences are realist in truth value or ontology. Adams says that it's still natural. That emotivism still has a bit of a naturalist part of that in there. Emotivism is also a form of non-cognitivism. It's not cognitively, I guess, understood. I guess it's emotive. So the reasons it's natural. Why would this theory of emotivism be naturalist, and why would Adams call it emotive naturalism? I would say because having a theory of naturalism is very, it's very open. It's very, you can kind of fashion your own little naturalist kind of view. The only thing that you can't be a naturalist about is by saying that, basically that ethical sentences and statements are not natural. Really, you can say that they don't have meaningfulness. They don't have, or that they're not empirical, and that they can't abide by verifiability, and then they can't be verified. The verifiability theory of Ayer as well as other positivists pretty much had like a criterion of what is meaningful. They kind of, there's something really interesting about the logical positivists, because they cared about logical analysis and empirical observation. They're pretty much the 20th century analytic empiricists. Really, that's really what they were. So emotivism can be naturalist by saying that ethical statements aren't empirically meaningful. They are not controlled by observation, but they're still natural, and we can somewhat investigate them in terms of scientific thought, pretty much. Um, that's pretty much where I'm going with that. So it's saying that, are ethical senses meaningful? No, they are emotive. Is every single meaningful sentence, it is as such by virtue of the designation of terms. Yeah, that's really where the meaningfulness comes in, is by designation of terms. And I would classify myself as a emotivist, really. But I guess we could. Emotivism can be naturalistic, because even though ethical senses are not realist in truth value or ontology, they can still be scientifically investigated, really, by terms of their emotiveness. And so, even though we're not investigating them in most fields, we can investigate them in terms of, like, from a psychological lens, pretty much. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on that. Emotivism can be naturalistic, but you have to have a really good account of epistemology here. Emotive naturalism gives its emotive naturalism gives with that term its own metaphysics and truth value, but it has to give a good account of the epistemology as well. It has to have a good account of that, and we have to have a good account as to how not only ethical statements are emotive, but also how that is natural, and how emotivism is a naturalistic theory. Thanks. Let me know your thoughts.